All right, welcome back to the Kingdom Point of View. We're here today with our callers on the line, just as well as our people in the audience, and our moderator again, Chachi Butler, is back here again. Young man, appreciate you. Always a pleasure. But I know you said you had something for us today to help encourage us as usual, as he always do, just like many others. But what you got for us today, since it's on you to bring us a topic today, young man?
First of all, it's an honor just to be back here, as always, just to be a part of the Kingdom Point of View.
Yes, sir.
We had a show we did a while back on men's mental health and mindset. I think that's an important thing to delve in today as we become kingdom men, as we continue to read and we study our word, yes, but sir, understanding the pressures that men are up under today. You know, men are up under great pressure. Suicide is an all-time
yes,
high.
Sir. Yes, sir.
People are trying to figure things out. Jobs and the economy. The role of man has been reduced down to who he is. He don't feel as important as he once did. And so, you know, I want to kind of, if you would, let's kind of just have dialogue today from that Romans 12:2 that says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Right, I want to kind of just bounce back out and just have a free-flowing conversation about that, because like I said, so many men are going through so many different things, and you're trying to perform and you're trying to be who you're supposed to be, but
Absolutely.
Nobody taught us how to walk through the difficult spots of manhood.
Absolutely, young man. You pressing hard on them. I don't know. They probably just take them cliff notes there and replay it all over about 10 minutes in a row. But we got our audience members today, just as well as the callers on the line. And we definitely want to bear in mind to see exactly what we can do to try to help others. But in the kingdom, automatically, and we here on the Kingdom Point of View, and the kingdom, for those who understand, is the whole body. That's the word of God, the kingdom of God, as it said in the Bible. And we know in the beginning that God created man in his own image and likeness. And these are always foundational things that we have to understand. You know, in a lot of sessions that I've been in, that verse within itself has always been something that kind of been controversy mentally to a lot of people, since you're talking about the mindset, which the whole Bible deals with the mindset quite naturally. But God created man in his own image and likeness. What I'm trying to get to is the point that that term man meant mankind. And so from that standpoint, he was talking about everyone, you know, even though in the next chapter, because that's Genesis 1, in the next chapter, God begins to break down the breakdown of man himself, which becomes singular but plural at the same time, because all generations come out of one man that was created from the dust, and that was Adam. And so that man, being that foundation, you know, begins to build upon certain things. You know, when you're dealing with that mindset, it's all about the core. That's why I went there. You know, what are your fundamental principles? What is your bottom line philosophy? As they say, your ideology. Where did you get your belief from? Which is your faith. Where did this derive from? This is the seed that's being planted, the parable that Jesus Christ gives in the word when he's talking to the disciples. And then disciple meaning, you know, the students, whoever's trying to be up under that doctrine to try to follow to get that development. And that is what we have to foundationally understand. What is it corely that we believe in? Because whatever it is that you believe is a man is what you begin to follow. Whatever it is that you, as the words I heard you say it, what if be careful what you hear, you know, because faith come by hearing the word of God. But a lot of times what happens, the A clause of that is faith come by hearing. And that is true. So what are you hearing? Did you hear that now in the sense that you are less than? Because where did that belief come from? It has to come from something that has been produced, whether it's from songs, or whether it's television, or influence in the neighborhood. Something has diminished the idea of what a male man role is when it comes to God, and God's ideal for man when it comes to society. And that's what we have to kind of tackle head on, is a lot of times what happens, because the mental health part of it, because of that burden that man is facing, meaning male man, as you're speaking of, begins to put a little weight on them. In the word, it talk about that from one degree, where it say each one must bear each other's burden. Okay? And then in the middle of that passage, in those verses, it says, any man that thinketh he's something when he's nothing, he deceiveth himself. See, right there in that meat is trying to tell everyone from that position, never think that you can do it by yourself.
You can't.
That's where the first burden and load falls on the individual, thinking that I have, whether it's physical brute strength, whether I have a lot of knowledge, you know, whether I'm a great applier, you know, but none of those things can sustain without God. And so at the end of that, just before I get to running too much, it says each one must carry his own load. Yes, sir.
That's really profound. And when you were saying that, because as men, we've been taught so much that what strength looks like, that we start to believe that strength is trying to carry it by myself.
Absolutely.
My wife was sick for 11 years, and during that 11-year period of her being sick with her disease that she had, that was a rare muscle disease, there were times when she would cry and she would go through things, and I thought me being strong was not to cry, not to show any emotion, not to show that it had broke me too, that I was going through. Like when we were in the doctor's office and they told us she couldn't carry a fetus because of her condition. How when she fell down and I had to hide my tears and I would cry in the car because my whole makeup of my belief system had told me that being a man means that you didn't feel anything, that you didn't have any emotion, that things didn't hurt you. So I didn't even know how to reach for help at the time because I was so into, I thought being manhood means to carry it alone when Jesus never gave us the commission to carry it alone. In fact, he told us to cast all your cares upon him. He said, let the strong bear the infirmities of the weak. And so when we're going through things, we should be able to have that dialogue and to have a safe space to be able to share with, as well as talk about what we're going through. And it's so important when you say that and start just jogging things in my mind. I thought about Jesus Christ. Even when he was on the cross, he said, Father, why have thou forsaken thee? He began to speak and talk about the situation that he was in. And before that, if we back up just a little bit, when he was in Gethsemane, he began to say, I wish that this bitter cup would pass me by. The cup means the price. It was so heavy. So even if Jesus needed somebody, if he was able to speak and to say how this was, what makes us think we're stronger than Jesus? What makes us think that our strength is in being silent? But see, in silence you die, and we suffer, and we don't say anything. We think the strength is in being quiet. There are certain things we understand that you don't speak on, but we need to understand the importance of things that God have gave us from therapy, from being able to read his word so that we don't have to carry these things. That's why more men die from heart attack, because the stress metabolizes inside of the body. When you ain't dealing with that stuff, when you say I ain't talking about it, a lot of times as men, we usually say things like I'm good, I'm okay. You're not. If you're thinking about it, it's called ruminating on it. If you're thinking about it all the time, you're not good. You need to find a safe space to be able to have dialogue so you can deal with that. And backing up just a little bit in the conversation that we're having. When you, and I want you to kind of expound on it a little bit, even that, I want you to delve in there about the belief system, because a lot of times those beliefs are passed down, because what's has not been transformed is transferred. Maybe your father was like that, your grandfather was like that, and so we think that becomes the makeup of a man. I want to use me as the example to our calling, to our audience that's listening. But I thought, because I had never seen my grandfathers cry, I thought that was the makeup of a man. I thought that men, I bought into the notion to be a real man that you had no emotion, that you couldn't show that things bothered you because you would be considered weak. Actually, the strong person is the person who has the sense enough to say, listen, I can't carry this. I need some help. How do I help me? You know, and so but I want you to kind of talk a little bit about the philosophy of the belief system, what the origins of how stuff like that happened, and I'm just in that dialogue.
You own it, young man, absolutely. And before I take it any further, we got some of the activity of one of the people in the audience, so let's give them a chance, and definitely we're going to I'm going to expound on your question and statement just as well as the moderator. But yes, sir, young man right here in the audience, help us out a little bit.
I heard y'all talk about suffering and sharing your load, and then you just y'all dropped some nuggets about sharing your load. Because I can remember when my wife got hit with cancer, and the instant pressure of like, oh my God, what's this? But I sit back and think about how I got through it. It wasn't about myself. One of the most powerful things one of my friends ever told me was, don't suffer in silence. And I was suffering in silence. But I had a circle of people like my dad, my brothers, and I had two other guys that really just helped me out, like who I can talk to, who I can trust. sharing information with and talk, and as I would talk to him, I would feel the release of it, not so bad as where I feel like I'm stressed, and then how do I go back and be rejuvenated, and then in order to go help my wife, because she's battling it and she's mentally torn, and I'm torn too, but I'm sitting here like and trying to internalize I can't show weakness in this, right, the third. But one of the great things when somebody ever told me, because they person lost their wife to cancer, and he was like, man, cry with her, but also have a circle of people that you can talk to. And I'm gonna be honest, man, those circle of people, it was like 6 people that really just helped me out through that time.
That's great.
And not suffering in silence is something that we do as men, because I had a friend of mine, she once told me that she didn't believe that somebody could commit suicide,
Right.
until she saw it happen. And she was like, not that person. How that person could do that? She didn't see that person doing it, but you never know what people going through. Once
Absolutely.
again, people suffer in silence, don't talk. And as men growing up, like Chacha was saying, you see older people, well, men, show you strong, don't cry. But sometimes tears speak words
Yes, sir.
that words can't even express.
Absolutely.
It helps so much being able to talk, even just being able to cry in front of somebody inside your safe space. And everybody ain't in your safe space, but I learned that throughout that process. And she's still battling, but things are getting better for her though.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
and that's powerful, and the being able to share, and for transparency. Having that, being able to share was important to me, and I've never told this story on camera, but if it's okay, I'll tell this story.
Yes, sir, young man.
When my wife passed away in 2020, I was calling different people and I was letting them know that my wife had died, and it was the most horrific time of my life. It was, the doctors came in and said the 4 words that changed my life: she didn't make it. And when they came and they said it, so I was calling different people, telling them that Crystal had coded, my wife had coded, and I knew then, it felt like my life had ended.
All right.
But the importance, I'm going to the importance of having a circle that you can share information with that will help you even in those dark places and dark moments, because we all are going to face those, and adversity is going to come.
100%.
That's life. It's built like that. It's not about being a good person or a bad person. Life just tends to happen to all of us, to the people in the audience, to our callers, to the people who are listening, who are calling into the show. Life happens to us.
Absolutely.
And so, I get the news that my wife has passed away. That was the first time in my life at 37 years old, I wanted to be 4 years old. I was like George Floyd. I cried for my mama, and my mama couldn't change the situation that had happened. And when I was sitting there, I was contemplating what I was going to do, what was the rest of my life is going to be like. Right. And I remember saying to myself that tonight I'm going to end it all. I'm going to finish this up. If Crystal's gone, I'm going to go. And I didn't tell anybody this, but Johona called me, and we were talking on the phone, and he said, you told me one time if your wife died, you was going to leave with her. And he said, everybody in the room, look around, everybody in that room, you're just as important to them as she was to you, and you have purpose on your life. Just that little nugget helped me to rewind my life and to find purpose in a dark moment. And so that's why we have those share circles and places in safe space, because you talked about somebody committing suicide. Sometimes we don't know why people do it, but the pressures of life, because people are going through pressure and they don't have a place they can tell somebody that I'm hurting, I'm crushed, it's too much, because everybody says you're okay, that you're fine, and man up. We hear these types of terminology, but nobody never speaks to the space of saying, I've heard too, I've been there, I've been broken, and you talked about, your wife being not diagnosed and being sick. That is an importance to having somebody that have walked through it. And that's what the kingdom point of view is about, is having a tribe to say, hey, we're here, we go through things, but we're here to share our information of what we've been through and to talk about how God will bring you through it, because it don't mean you won't go through nothing, but to know that in the mindset that whatever he brings you to, he'll bring you through it, that the word tells us that he'll never leave us nor forsaken us, that he'll be with us always, and we can start take that stuff and take that word and start to apply it to our life. When we take the word and make it applicable, and we can understand that mindset, because it's a difficult space to operate in, and it can be tough, it can be hard. And so I think that was really, really good to the audience member. That was really, really good dialogue and just really, really good insight.
Yes, sir. Both of you all are definitely on it. And once again, for those on the call and the audience, I have a very good memory. So I have to deal with, I I say working backwards sometime. And you asked me a question, moderator, about the mindset of that circumstance, on where the males get it from, and gonna get all the way to that philosophy, like you said. And I learned and studied on the Kingdom Principles, on one of the books in Miles Monroe, Kingdom Concepts, that in order to have a certain philosophy, it comes from your ideology.
Indeed.
And ideology, for those who are listening, the viewers just as well, these are the ideas that you collected. So the question became, in study, where did you get your ideas from? That's why in the summary I was starting out from that concept, because on the Kingdom point of view, I kind of give a little preliminary. But so the ideas that were collected is exactly what's being explained on the show today. The ideas of a man don't cry. The ideas of I just supposed to be tough and strong. And then when that tough moment of something that was called in study a disappointment, okay, came about. And you made mention right here on camera, and like you said, you never said, and quite naturally, nothing for me to talk about unless somebody's sharing it, and you did. The reason why I was able to respond that way was because I haven't personally experienced a spouse dying. And so sometimes in a earthly standpoint, it's told like this: if a person haven't experienced it, they can't tell you or help you. So the reason why I was able to help you, because I had death in other areas.
Gotcha.
I've seen death from many others. In business, I've lost close people close to me. Even in the death of something, not even a person, but death can also be a living death. Some people are living, as they said in study, some people have already died 20 years ago, but they still living because they've never allowed themselves to grow. They still at that same point. They still got old luggage. They never went past that moment. They still got the problem from the 12th grade, but now they 40 years old still now. So they died back in the 12th grade. So I understood the concept, and then study, starting with Martin Luther King and different stuff, I understood it through that. It's all about learning behavior traits, you know, and I understood it because I seen it happen, and I, as you said, I collected that idea. It wasn't something that I needed to use when you gave it to me, but it was stored in my memory bank, like on something that just in case if I have to use it. And then, you know, thank God, due to my study in the Holy Spirit, it came to me when you made the statement about that day that this is the statement that needs to be made now, without me even having, as they say, certain credentials, you know, or certain type of titles.
Indeed.
But one thing I did have that's already written, it says that a friend will love it closer than a brother. One thing I knew I had the love of God in me, and I had good intent. And so because of that, that's what I poured from that day, and you caught it instantly because I heard it in your voice, because you told me right then, you said, ain't nobody never told me that before. I'm important too. And I could tell in your voice, and I left it just like that right now because I knew you would carry it on. And that's where God has transferred to us love. It said that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. So what it is, as I was utilizing Martin Luther King saying in this saying, what have we done for others? We know that self-preservation sometimes kick in, and some don't even do that in a good way. But the whole idea in loving thy neighbor as thyself is what it's all about. Would a person in any situation, any disappointment, that's why I use the word disappointment, because anyone losing someone, they're disappointed. Anything that you don't have that you couldn't control creates a disappointment. And because of that, it's all about understanding the concepts. So on the kingdom point of view, I will always use practical example just as well as you and people in the artists. I listen to them because this is how we got to be able to tie it all in to say, how is it, as you said, applicable from the word into the natural, and show that they all are corresponding. As the word teaches us, it says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, spiritual wickedness in high places. So the battle comes from that spiritual realm, because the things of the spirit produces those things of the flesh. And so that once we begin to study, as you say, and begin to apply this word and put more in consistently over and over. That's why I tell us our daily bread. They don't want you to have a weekly bread. Don't want you to have a monthly bread or yearly bread, your daily bread, because we know not the day nor the hour. And so because of those things, it's very mandatory that we should always try to pour into each other and constantly pour in the word, which is love. Indeed. And so that we're able to pour back. And giving a good analogy for those who are listening, those who are viewing, or viewing in the future just with an audience. If you want to, I noticed when one of us came, we had the water, we had different cups we drank them, but if nothing was ever put in the cup or in the water bottle, how could you drink some out of it? So something has to be put in order to put out. And so sometimes we're put in a position to where we pour in so much, and we pour in everything that's good in love, but we got to put the love back in. It has to be what we call in what is the friendship reciprocated. And that's what God is looking for us just as well, to be able to ask upon him. I heard you said how Jesus Christ even asked God himself, prayed out to God himself. He asked the Father himself, for help just as well. And the question, so we have to be able to pray and to ask just as well to be replenished with the word of God. And that's what it's all about, trying to get to that. But yes, sir, you had something to say? Help us out, audience member.
I take you back to my story like I was mentioning. I remember going through that time. You were just talking about replenishing. You got to be able to be replenished.
Yes, sir.
It felt like I was giving a lot. But as I sit back and as you were talking, I was thinking, I said, dog, I was giving a lot, but as I was pouring into my wife, trying to uplift her, my circle of people who I said help me out, they were pouring into me and like, man, you can be all right, man. Just uplifting me on a daily basis, checking in on me. Because at that time, as a man, you try to take care of your lady. And so I was working a job that I didn't like to do. The money was good, but I had to get up early in the morning and do some things, get off late a lot of time. And I was like, man, but I hate this. But I knew at the end of the day, I had to take care of my lady. But what you was talking about for us replenishing, like I got a lot of, as I sit back and reflect, that my circle of people, they were replenishing me throughout. And I didn't even realize it till now. I really didn't realize it. And I really appreciate those people to this day. Me, very, very, very dear to my heart. But because I feel like sometimes as men, we can okay, I'm good, and we're okay and I'm good ourselves into a straitjacket. And it's a lot of times.
That's good. That's heavy.
We don't always want to express ourselves, but I encourage men, like from learning that, I encourage men to have your circle of people that you can count on, but also express yourself to and give you wisdom on how to cope through it, or not even just how to cope through it, just listen to you. Just listen to you get this off your chest so it ain't bother you no more. Because like Chacha was saying, as men, we're good, but we'll go to sleep with it on us. We'll be at work, think about it. Then you be mad at somebody else about something that they ain't nothing to do with.
All right.
Yes. You were really on it, man. That's powerful. And I just want to say to the audience and to the people who are listening in the future, to every man who's out there listening, who may have a sick spouse or who's having to carry a lot of things.
Absolutely.
I understand, and I want to say to them what you said to me. You are important.
Absolutely.
Because you are important. I need you to hear that. And I'm going to stop just for a second and say you are important because you may do everything you can. I remember, I commend you for doing that for your wife because it was a difficult time. But you did what Dr. Miles Monroe called be the foundation. You held it together for your family. And I want to say thank you to every guy who never was told thank you for the work you put in, for the grind you put in for the children, for the times you went without to make sure that they had, and the times you didn't say nothing, you dealt with it in silence, for the times you told her it was going to be okay, and you didn't even know how it was going to be okay. I want to speak to the old guys and say you were important, and thank you for not giving up. Thank you for every brother who's had to press through, who sat in the doctor's office, had to hear a diagnosis that you didn't understand, and you had to figure it out on the road. For every brother that had to go through that, who had, when my wife passed away, I had almost $500,000 worth of debt, worth of medical debt. People didn't realize that what she went through, I also went through. Everybody would ask, how is she doing? Nobody never cared to ask how I was doing. And I was going through the same thing, and I always had to be that it was okay. And so sometimes that pressure can be a lot, and I like how the audience member spoke about the replenishing process. And I thank God for even my circle, and I want to say to you, Johona, thank you for being a person who poured and continue to pour, that checked on me every Tuesday. he would check in on me because it was a difficult space. Losing my wife, he would check in to make sure on Tuesday, you okay? What are you doing? How you doing? Why? Because that's important. And that same thing, if we could just do it for just one person, one person, a text take you 25 seconds to see how you doing. I'm just checking in on you. I want to make sure you're good and to actively listen and not always tell them what to do, but to say, I'm here to hear you, because what you're sharing is important, because you may be the last link before somebody decide to load the 9 up and get out of here.
That's true.
So it's important, it's significant, and like the audience member said, we were straight jacket ourselves, and we were I'm okay ourselves all the way to a straight jacket, and we started to depend on other things. It could be sex and alcohol or drugs, but all those things still does not heal. And that's why Jesus is the balm in Gilead. They gave us the right answer. They just had to teach us how to get there. And a balm is a healing agent. And so Jesus can do it for you. But you got to understand what to apply that. And how do I come to him with all of my broken pieces, even as a man? He's saying, I want to heal you. That's what he wants to do. That's why he said, I stand at the door and I knock. And if you suck with me, I'll suck. Because every bit of my heaviness, the Bible tells us that he'll give us beautiful ashes. I didn't see... When I went through, I didn't see a new me emerging from that. I thought it was all shattered, was all broken. But to be able to have a story and say, yes, I was broken. Yes, I was crushed. Yes, it didn't go the way I wanted to go. But God, you are able to use broken pieces, all of my pieces you can use, and you will heal me from everything I've been through. And God, you are the answer. And that's my final answer. Everything I've been through, people from different walks, atheists, agnostic, and other people, they say, how do you get this intestinal fortitude? How do you have this strong mindset? What do you do? What's your willpower? And it's not a willpower, it's understanding who Jesus is, because by myself I can't do this. The Bible tells us that he will give us a peace that will surpass all understanding. It don't make sense how I'm not in a straitjacket after everything that I've been through, the disappointments and the adversity that life will throw at you. And how do we bounce back as men? But again, I want to say to somebody, you are important. I had never heard that. And that was significant at a pivotal point, at the darkest moment of my life. I needed to hear that. And I appreciate that. And we got to take time, even as black men, to tell another brother, I appreciate you, brother. That's true. I appreciate you. Thank you for pouring. Thank you for checking on me, man. Because every day ain't okay. I'm going to say I'm good, but bro, sometimes I ain't good.
I understand. You on it, young man. You all are definitely tough on it today. And I know we touching a lot. I'm thinking about a lot of shows that have happened and a lot of statements from young men and women. I've heard it before about that part about sharing with one another, the love and being open and not being silent. Like you said on one of the other shows that was discussed on men's mental health, and it's all a mentality, it's all a mindset, and that's the core part that on the kingdom point of view that we're after. Changing your mindset, as one of the subtitles is once you change the way you think, and that's what I learned and study a lot in reading the books and kingdom principles and certain things and concepts and how to enter into the kingdom in so many different ways, but it all boils down to a mindset. Are we willing to change the way we think? What we say on street terms, they say the glass is half empty or half full. It's all about how it's perceived. So those things, they say you can either be optimistic or pessimistic. It's all about how you view the same circumstance and how you do it. That was a story that was told to me, and I can't remember where I got it from, but just to kind of draw it into the same concept. They was car salesmen, and this guy was they was at home, and it started raining, real bad. And one of the car salesmen got up in the morning and he looked out. He said it's raining outside, so ain't no use of me going to work because ain't gonna be too many cars to be sold. So that's one mindset. Yes. And another car salesman got up. He seen it was raining. They work at the same car dealership. He said, "Man, it's a beautiful day. It's a good day to go to work." And then they got there. They said, "It's raining bad. Why you came to work?" He said, because I knew one too many car salesmen going to be here today, so whatever sale happened, more than likely I get it. And so because of the mindset was different, it wasn't the condition that was happening, it was how you perceive and thought about the condition. That's why it says in the word, just so is a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And so those are the things that we begin to produce how we think. Now, that doesn't mean that you can just go on top of a 40-story building and just say, well, I believe I can fly, just jump off. But we're talking about things because God give us common sense. And so we have to know that in the practical part of the example that I gave, how it was viewed in a condition of rain, because rain from that person's mindset was not bad. It was good. So what it said that anything that the devil meant for bad, God meant for good, it's the same concept. You got to be able to take the adversities, as you said, the things that we'll deal with. He told the persecution that we'll face, wanting us to know that thorn that'll be in our side, wanting us to take it and be able to utilize it for a good aspect and see how it becomes and make you much greater. And you mentioned that statement along your way through that adversity, how you did not see how the ashes part will form you into something even greater than you were prior to the circumstance. And you thought at that time, from that mindset, you were so low, but just from that statement, that was a blessing. Thank God that it helped you realize you flipped the pancake. You flipped the pancake and noticed exactly what took place, and the whole idea, like you speaking to the viewers and the callers and those in the audience just as well, I would have to agree with you, young man, that you got to tell them thank you. Everybody got to know that you are important. And the moment you understand that you are important, then everything begins to change foundationally on how you perceive yourself. And those are so many books and different sessions of that I've been in, but that deals with self-worth. Once you understand your self-worth, another term would be your values. Once you understand the value of who you are, there are certain things you're not willing to accept or partake in, as the words say, and not be conformed to. And so all these things are still relevant, and as we know, a lot of scriptures and things always be given to people, but not always tying it into the right practical or parable example so they can understand how the word itself reflects them. But this has definitely been great on that part of trying to tackle that part of the men's mental part of that mindset, and I'm loving that. And I heard the term men, and I don't think I can escape without saying this on the kingdom point of view, that a lot of times that there are, it needs to be understood that there are different levels of the term man. And that was a man breakdown I said in the Bible, that man at some points was plural and man at sometimes was singular. Okay? Now, when we say it in the earthly realm, we'll say men all the time because of a male. But the reality is, being a man is an actual behavior. You have to arrive to a certain behavior to be a man on the level that we're talking about from a kingdom concept, far as what the word of God is talking about, that type of man. Because in the beginning, when God created man and created Adam in that sense, and he had him in the garden to work the garden, to attend to it. This prior to him even putting him to sleep and creating another being out of him, not from the dust, not from the soil, but out of him. When he said he did not see fit for man to be alone. In study, I learned this to make it help me and hopefully it'll help others. He said that in study, when it said that he did not see fit for man to be alone, he split the word up and said A-L. He said, imagine A-L-L separate O-N-E, all one. He didn't want man to be all one, so he brought himself out of himself, which means that the male man was complete and whole because he did not see himself even needing a spouse. God said, I did not see fit for this man to be alone. He was tending to the garden. He was working the field. He done named the animals. He done everything God. He was on his happy-go-lucky, as we'll say in the street. So which means the concept that I'm after tying it into value and self-worth is the whole idea that we have to be single, which single doesn't mean loneliness. It means to be alone. Back to the same word. And alone means, in totality, means you have to be whole. So he was a whole being. He was a whole person prior to even putting him with a helpmeet. And so was she whole herself. And tying it all into the word, trying to sum it up, how can two walk together unless they agree? So this idea, this concept that I'm going to be made whole when I get somebody, you would have to destroy it. They were two whole people, because he would have said in the word, how can a half and a half walk together unless they agree? Come on, young man, before I take a whole nother show somewhere else. Yes, sir.
You just said a mouthful. And I'm sitting here just thinking as y'all talk. A lot of stuff, like, you putting this term to it, but a lot of stuff I done dealt with, like you were just saying, being whole. I can remember being a single man. I said I knew what my value was, and I knew my self-worth. I knew what I was not gonna tolerate, what I was not gonna have in a mate.
Absolutely.
But then I knew before I can love anybody and give love, I gotta love myself.
That's it.
For myself, and love who I am, and love everything about me before I go and try to love somebody else.
Absolutely.
Because like you just said, it can't be half and a half. No, it's whole and whole.
It's
Y'all
whole
come
and whole.
together.
All right.
But yeah, you just dropped some nuggets there for real.
All right. Yeah.
I'm seeing reflecting, and you dropped some huge nuggets about self-worth.
That's
you
good.
dropped some nuggets there.
That's good, young man. And like I said, that could be a whole nother show within itself, and I don't want to walk it too far down, but I wanted to drop that to tie it in because I heard the term man, and I don't want to escape it in this part of dealing with the mental health part, dealing with the male part of that, so that they can understand deeply that first you need to become that man. Because we'll find ourselves sometimes trying to get the benefits from God, but we don't never want to put the work in that God have already applied to us. And that's what the point is all about right here today. And this has definitely been a lovely session. We done covered a lot dealing with that mental health part today, and I love that. But if you want to come to the studio or call, definitely email in to the Kingdom Point of View. And we're happy to have you just like anybody else and help us out along the way. But once again, thank you for tuning in to the Kingdom Point of View. And we'll see you next time.